Welcome back to The Growth Show. I'm your host, Whitney, and today I am excited to welcome Stephanie Long to the show. Stephanie Long is a business coach for nutritionists and has helped hundreds of nutritionists start their own successful nutrition businesses. Her online course, Launch Your Nutrition Biz, has helped over 500 nutritionists launch their business and sign new paying nutrition clients. Stephanie's podcast, Next Level Nutrition Biz, has also been regarded as an essential resource for starting your nutrition business. Stephanie is a registered holistic nutritionist and culinary nutrition expert and graduated from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition in 2014. She currently lives in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. And in this episode, we are talking all about how to get nutrition clients without a huge social media following. And what I'm really excited about is that we made sure to have a balanced approach here. So whether you want to get clients from social media, but you want to find out, well, how do I do this without having a huge following and trying to crack the algorithm? What can I do if Instagram or any kind of social media platform is really the spot that you want to be? But then also we debunk a few myths or thoughts about where you should be starting first when you're trying to get your first clients. And we give you some options if it turns out social media just isn't quite hitting the mark for you. It's something maybe you don't enjoy a whole lot, and give you some ideas for other ways that you can be getting really great clients, whether you're just getting started or wanting to grow your business. So let's dive in. Welcome, Stephanie, to the show. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this topic today as well. So yeah, let's dive right in and get to it.
Yeah. We were chatting before we hit record, and we have a good podcast planned for all of you. I just got to say that. So I introduced you. You know, are a nutritionist by training and all of that. Mm-hmm. What called you to become a business coach for other nutritionists?
Great question. And it kind of happened just by happenstance. I didn't mean to go down this channel at all. When I became a nutritionist and was starting my own business, I just found it honestly so challenging. I didn't know how to start, where to turn to. Should I, things we're going to talk about today. Should I be focusing just on social media? Should I have a blog? Like, what should I be doing? And as I really learned more and had some input from like nutrition mentors and coaches and people that had experience in the industry, I started to realize like what was working and what wasn't working, and just became passionate about helping other nutritionists that were just starting their business to like avoid some of the common pitfalls. Was like, okay, if I can save them some time and some energy, I would love to help them out. So organically it started happening, and kind of into where it is today, started with just doing workshops, one-on-one, coffee chats. And then that turned into group programs and an online course. And now I've been doing this for 7 years. So it really kind of snowballed, but it did happen very organically.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think that's the best way to start a business is you found a need and an issue that you wanted to solve and save people from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do that. Well, you've helped so many people at this point through your programs, and maybe some of our listeners are also listeners to your podcast. You have a great podcast as well. And you've been in some of our bundles. So we just wrapped up our holiday bundle and you were in there. So shout out anyone listening who did opt into our bundle. The bundle's closed, but if you opted in, you can still redeem all the gifts. You have time for that. And Stephanie has a free gift in there about starting your business, and it's a great checklist. So just shout out and thanks for always being a part and willing to share your resources and knowledge with everyone.
So, absolutely. Happy to.
Yeah. And I just love the style of how you approach things. I feel like you are very approachable, how your advice feels. It just feels very realistic and down to earth. So that's what really makes me excited to dive into this topic today, because we're going to get into like the real deal of marketing and getting clients and social media and all of that, and how to get clients without a huge social media following. And I think that that's something that a lot of people want to know about. I've had a few clients come on the podcast and they've talked about how they love growing their business without social media at all. I think it's a dream of some of us love it, but not all of us. So let's just pull back the curtain on this and get you kind of sharing your knowledge. So what's the first step someone should take when trying to attract clients with a small or maybe just a non-existent social media following?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to be clear here that, you can use social media to grow your business. Like, absolutely. But I don't believe it should be the only way that you grow your business. There's so many other ways. And I see this time and time again where people put all of their eggs into the social media basket. They get frustrated that they're not growing or getting clients, or they're just exhausted from, the continuous like content creation train, and they just want to give up. They want to throw the towel in, not do their business anymore. So hopefully today we can give you some other ideas for how to get clients from other ways than just social media. But I would say one of the main things that you need to think about, if you are starting on social media, you're starting on another channel to market your business, would be to get clear on a niche. So, what are you focusing on? Who are you helping? And what are you helping them with? Because once you start sharing content, whether that's through social media or a blog or on a podcast, it's going to be really hard to just share generic nutrition information, because there's just, honestly, so many other people out there doing the same thing right now. And people want a specific solution to their problems. So if we're just sharing, like nice to have information, it's not really going to convert people and show your authority on different topics. So we want to make sure that you are niching down, that you're really clear about what you do, you're creating content aligned with the niche, and that's really going to help to drive more interest over time. But that is a mistake I see a lot of people. They just start sharing on social media, which kudos, just getting on there and sharing is great, but we need a little bit of direction so that when somebody comes, to your profile and they want to learn more, they know exactly what they're going to get and they want to hit that follow button versus, being a little bit unclear because you're not even clear on what you do or who you help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, we talk about that. I talk about that with the website too. You need to be clear who you're speaking to. And the more you're dialed in, the more connection people are going to have with the words that you have on your site and all of that. And so just another vote for niching, getting clear, getting that picture in your head of like who you're speaking to, because it isn't just about what you're putting in your emails or what you're putting in your website. It touches every aspect of your business and how you're having conversations. You do need to have that clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be so specific and say, like, I'm trying to target a girl named Amanda who's, 25 and lives in this place and has all of these interests. Like, obviously, like, it's good to know these things and be really clear on the type of, ideal client we want to attract. But even just getting as clear as like, and I like to explain it more as like a funnel. So even, at the top end of the funnel, like being a little bit more broad, like even maybe saying women's health versus just nutrition, like that is more specific. And then as we go down that funnel and we get more specific, maybe it's hormones, maybe it's like period support. So you can see that, there's variation of where you land with niching, but just being a little bit more clear than vague is going to help you out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think too, when you're figuring out what to post, posting a photo of your salad one day and then a photo of, like here are top 10 leafy greens, like it's kind of all over the place. It could be if you're not really honing in and saying, okay, these are the people that I'm trying to reach and these are the messages that they need to be hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you raise a good point. I think as nutritionists or health experts, we want to share our knowledge so much and share the nitty gritty about, like, this supplement that we love and all the reasons why we love it, or, why, magnesium is so important, and go into the science of it, or, whatever it might be. But does the person on the receiving end really care? Like, do they need all of that information? Do we need to get so granular with the topics and information we're sharing on social media? And I would argue that, sure, there's a time and a place where people do need to learn, some of those important features of a supplement or, a mineral or something like that. But a lot of the time that's like a little bit too specific, and it's going to turn people off. They're going to feel like, what is in this for me? And they're just going to feel like you're a textbook kind of regurgitating information they could find on Google. So we need to remember that social media is a place to be social and to share and to story tell. And that's why a lot of us don't succeed on social media, for lack of a better word, is because we're just trying to educate and say, look how much I know as this expert, but we're not really connecting. We're not being social. And that's where things can fall a little bit flat as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm interested, kind of like as an aside, I think so many new business owners turn to social media as like one of their first things that they want to do when they maybe you don't have a website yet. You maybe don't even have a logo yet, but you're wanting to get out there and you want to start getting clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, social media seems to be the answer. And it's interesting to me. It's like, how has that become like the norm, that it's like, okay, I got to join Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess I do agree to an extent that, like, when I am looking for a business, I will kind of check their social profiles just to see that they, quote unquote, exist as a business on social media. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think it plays a role. I think it is, and please like argue this point, because coming from the end of like websites, being like a really key feature of what we need in our business, but like I would argue that maybe having a social media profile in today's world has equal importance as having the website, because it is like another platform people will go to just see, even just to look at your bio to see what is your website address. So maybe they're just using it as a
Mm-hmm.
landing pad to go and find out more about your business. So I do think it plays a role, and it is important to have like some type of profile and like business identity there. But I
Yeah.
think that we jump there without a plan. We see all these people going viral. We're like, okay, what is this? Like this code that I need to crack to like go viral. And when it doesn't happen, we're like, oh my gosh, I am not doing well and my business is failing. And, why are all these people, getting all these follows and engagement and I'm not? So I think it can be a difficult place, because I think it feels sometimes like the people who do really well go really far, and the people that don't know, how to crack that code aren't making
Mm-hmm.
progress. So I think it can be a frustrating space to be in, because a lot of us just don't know what's working or not working.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that this is an interesting point too, looking at social media as like a place for legitimacy, like a little
Mm-hmm.
connection, it's there, versus looking at posting on Instagram being your client attraction and generation strategy. And to what you said at the top of the episode, like putting all of your eggs in one basket and saying, okay, this is it. Because you can set up an Instagram profile. You can have a few, like my Instagram profile right now is a static grid. It is
Mm-hmm.
there. We did put strategy behind what are the things going to be there. I put stuff in my stories, but I don't spend time posting, at least just not in this season of my business. We decided not to do that. So we don't look at Instagram as a place where we're actively thinking we're going to get clients. I'm not worried about what my follower count is or how's this post performing or all of that, because that is not a client generating place for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so it's fine to set up a profile, and if you feel and think that this is going to be a place where this is going to be client generation and attraction for you, that's fine. But then there's definitely strategy that goes into it. The
Mm-hmm.
same way if someone sets up a website, frankly, and thinks that it's just there for legitimacy, but doesn't see it as a client generation. And I will venture to say, maybe I'm biased, that spending the time to set up a website and get that going can be a much more powerful client generating thing that you put into your business versus spending a ton of time trying to crack the code on Instagram. And, it would take me sometimes like 2 hours to
Mm-hmm.
create a post on Instagram, and
Oh,
then it's gone.
I think that's low in comparison to some hours. I feel like some people I've heard in my community say it takes them like 4 or 5 hours just to like write the post, create the graphic. And, I think we do this because we don't, like, it's just assumed that, just like you said, that's the place you're going to find clients. We don't know that our website can generate people in, or we don't know how to effectively or strategically bring, people in through our website, or maybe through a blog, or what are the other things we could be doing to grow. We just automatically think social media, and then again get frustrated when it's not panning out. So you're
Mhm.
totally right that it's like this, the number one thing, start your social and like just get clients from social media. But there's so much noise there. Maybe back in 2012, when Instagram was becoming a thing, and just posting anything, you could just get clients more organically. But now there is a little bit more noise, and it does require, in my opinion, a strategy for it to be your number one way that you are growing your business and getting clients.
Okay. And so for someone who does want to be using Instagram, maybe they enjoy it, or they're getting started and they're like, I still want to see this through. We talked about like niching and getting clear on your message as being one of those first steps. What other things can people be thinking about and doing and maybe expecting from their efforts if they don't have a large audience, but they really are hoping that they can get some clients from social media?
Yeah, I would say one of the main things is to really look at yourself as an expert, because you are, and remember that being on the platform, again, that doesn't mean sharing very granular information that, somebody that you're just trying to like kind of spew to them to say like, look how smart I am, but creating content that positions you as an authority, positions you as an expert, and is solving a problem for someone. So let's say you are in the fertility space and you want to start creating content. Well, think about some of the problems that somebody looking to get pregnant are having. Maybe they're just wondering, what is like, I was told I shouldn't eat XYZ. What is the food I should eat? So a helpful post could be like a swap, swap this food for that food. That's solving a problem for someone. It's showing your expertise. It's showcasing your authority. And it's just something that, somebody's getting value from. So we want to create valuable content. And then I honestly hate to say this one because I feel like I've never been a big person for like trends. I'm always the last person to start any trend, but I would say social media right now, the people that I see doing really well and the accounts doing really well are the ones looking strategically at what's trending, whether that's the type of content, the type of audio, whatever it is for that post, and then bringing it into your business with your own business lens, putting your own perspective on it, and then sharing that. So I'm not just saying like, look at the trends and copy them and do them, but like they are working. I do see that, but looking at them through the lens of your business and how you want to approach social media. So taking something that's doing well and then putting your own spin on it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because the whole thing that we're trying to do is kind of look at, okay, how can you be successful without having a huge following? But at the end of the day, in order to be successful on social media, I mean, there are tactical things, like I would say, like have your website in your bio, and like we could talk about like just those other things, but you need people to see your content.
Yes.
Right. Like, but the right people, like if you
Yes.
were to do some kind of trending audio and it was about a topic that was not, and you all see like I'm not on TikTok. I lurk on TikTok.
Same.
And, I'll watch a video about like someone, made a cat video and it's got 4 million views, but like, it doesn't relate. Like probably it's just a person. I don't know how they're monetizing aside from like TikTok paying them for all those views. So going viral for the sake of going viral, just because if all the people watching are not actually watching because they're interested in what you have to say and offer, and it's not going to really be so useful. But when you can connect it to your business, that's when the magic can really happen.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I think like the point I kind of want to push here is like, yes, we do want more eyes on the content, but the reason this content for, 99% of the time is working is because it's usually more entertaining. So it's, some kind of, maybe there's like a visual aspect that's pulling people in. Maybe it's the audio song that's trending. Maybe it's just like whatever you're writing on the post or the reel that is like a universal thing that everybody feels and can really relate to. So again, although we want to be the authority with more like educational content, maybe like infographics or whatever it is, we also want to give people a space where they can relax a little and be entertained and feel heard and be like, oh my gosh, she gets this because like here's this reel explaining her point of view about something that is my point of view, right? So again, that social aspect I brought up earlier is kind of really coming back into play, but so many of us don't know. We're like trying to like do this formula, and I don't know if the formulas are working like they used to. Now it's about like almost honestly personality, your brand voice, like your beliefs, your point of view, like that is really succeeding on social media right now, at least from what I've seen.
Okay. So, and social media is great for building that relationship with people because it is, you get to have your personality show through and people can see that and all of that. So let's say that someone does see a reel that you made and that's great. Like how would we then take those people along the path to become a client and not just a liker and
Yes.
go on their way?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because something I was thinking about a couple minutes ago was like, okay, make sure you remind people that they need to be selling as well. Like it's not just about sharing information. And this is, I think one of the biggest blunders, I guess, that a lot of us do, because we are health professionals, we want to help. We're just like those kind-hearted people that are like, we just want to help and see people feel better. But then we almost forget that this is a business that requires us to make income in order for us to show up and help people. So that means we have to be constantly, and this doesn't constant maybe isn't the right word, but consistently sharing about how people can work with us, what freebie that we have that can kind of get them into that funnel to learn that little bit of information, to get them on our email list, to further nurture them. So we need to be reminding people, here is my free resource, like grab it and join my email list. And on my email list, here's the type of value I provide. Or, this is exactly what I help you with inside my X program. In this program, you'll get support with XYZ. And instead of always just saying, you'll get 3 calls with me, you'll get a meal plan, you'll get this and that, and like all of that, we want to really explain, like, how will they feel? How will this help them, reach their health goal? What will their transformation be? And reiterating that over and over, because when you have a new follower, they might not go and look at the post, 5 posts back where you pitched your program. They're coming, in real time. So we need to make sure that this is something we're putting into our marketing plan consistently to talk about, so that new followers are also getting that information.
I love it. So thinking through and I love that you brought up the freebie and the email list. I definitely talk about email lists quite a bit on this podcast and the value of it. To be building that audience that we own. Our email list is our own. Those people have granted us permission to show up in their inbox, whereas Instagram can go down. They can change the algorithm. Like, things can happen and change. And so it's also important, I think, in order for you to be successful building your business off of Instagram or social media, is finding and thinking about what is that pathway to someone becoming a client, and that should be trying to get them on your email list, because then you can be sending them longer form content. You can have a welcome sequence if you want to get really fancy, kind of lead them through the story a little bit more, and then send them to your website. And that's really how you can make that relationship blossom and all of that. And they can still follow you and see your updates about your dog and, learn from you and all of that. But in order to become a client, eventually it's going to have to leave Instagram. I mean, we can talk about DMs a little bit, and maybe any tips or advice you have about, just handling like sales inquiries and things on Instagram and whatnot. But I think, just thinking through like, okay, what are those steps that I'm going to want to take people through, so that I have that built into when I'm talking in my posts, or how much am I sending people to different things, and what are the things I can be sending them to?
Totally. Because what's the point of going viral if you don't have the back end systems to support that one viral post that now you have new followers and you have comments and, where are you sending those people? So really this doesn't mean every single post you have to like really sit down and be like, okay, I'm thinking through every process of where should I send them? And, getting like nervous that you're going to do the wrong thing. We just want to send them somewhere. We want to bring them in, just like you said, Whitney, like we want to bring them into the funnel, into the email list, maybe over to our website. We want to bring them into our world a little bit more. But so many of us just leave it on Instagram, and we're like, okay, I don't want to ask you to do anything else. But again, this is a business. And, I like to even think about it, for so many of us that have maybe issues with selling, you're really doing somebody a disservice by not telling them the next step that they can take to work with you, because they likely need a solution, right? So by us withholding that information, it's not helping them, right? It's not helping us because our business can't grow. It's not helping them because they're not finding the solution. So it is helpful to sell. And obviously that doesn't mean you have to hard sell all the time, but suggesting or mentioning the ways that people can get more support is actually doing a service to them, so that they're getting the support that they need.
I love that. Yeah. I think so. Kind of just to summarize up so far, we can't, you could have like a whole episode about content strategy, because every platform is a little bit different. And maybe it's not a strict formula, but it's like, how much educational content, how much value content, how much, entertainment you mentioned, how much just straight kind of selling and talking about your program, or having client testimonials. And then, how do you structure that from the hook and the call to action? But I think anyone who is saying, I want to build my business and I want to try social media, seek out some resources. I'm sure you probably have resources. We'll be talking about some at the end to okay, say, how can I have a little bit more intention around how I go about my content so that I can get the most bang for the amount of time that I'm spending. And then also don't neglect those other back end systems in your business if you're going to be spending this time, so that people are then getting sent to a place that is going to allow them to learn about your services, convert, get on a discovery call, whatever case may be.
Perfect summary. And, even just as a rule of thumb, maybe it's just putting in your calendar like once a week promoting your freebie, right? Or once a week promoting your program. Like maybe right now it's too much to think about how to be strategic with every post, but at least once a week is like a pretty like low effort thing you can be doing to get those eyeballs to the places you want them to go and to grow the business a little bit further. But yes, social media, you're going to be the most successful if you have a strategy. So that's kind of the number one thing, but it's again, not the only place to be getting clients. I think that's pretty clear after what we've talked about here.
Well, and that's a great segue, because if this is feeling like, oh, you know what? Like I thought that Instagram was going to be this thing and I would just post some stuff, but actually this is not feeling so good to me right now about having to like start learning about strategy and all of that. What are some other channels? Anyone listening who's just like, okay, then just tell me how can I get my clients?
Yes, exactly.
What's going to be the best? Like, what are some of your suggestions?
Yeah. So I am a really big fan of podcasting, just like we're doing right now, whether that's having your own podcast or just being a guest on other people's podcasts. Obviously there's pros and cons to both. I would say, I've had a podcast now for 5 years. It's been incredible for my business. I feel like the majority, or maybe I'd say up until the last like year or two, the majority of my clients were coming directly from the podcast. So I was seeing a return, like a very big return, because you're nurturing people, they're learning from you, you get to share that expertise, create that authority. And then, likely the people aren't listening to multiple podcasts on that same topic. They might only have one or two that are their favorite. So when they're ready to reach out for support, they're going to likely reach out to you. But having your own podcast takes a lot of work, a lot of maintenance, a lot of scheduling, editing, producing, all of the things. So although I would highly recommend it, it is a lot. So what I suggest as an alternative, a great way to grow your audience and get in front of new people, and in fact, leverage someone else's audience, is by guest podcasting. So pitching yourself to be a guest on someone else's podcast, effectively pitching. So saying to that person, here's the value I can bring to your audience. Here's a couple topic ideas, and again, that's why niching is going to be really, really important, because we want to be able to say, this is, exactly what I can talk on, because this is the type of person that I help. So pitching, getting on a podcast, sharing, again, that freebie, sharing, your offer, your nutrition program, whatever it is, and getting people into that funnel can be a fantastic way to grow your business, especially when you're newer in business, right? Because let's just imagine for a second how long it might take to get in front of, let's even say 500 people, on social media who are listening, like, to every word you're saying, where you get on a podcast and maybe that podcast gets 500 downloads, and now 500 people have listened to you and your message. And I will say too, like the intimacy of a podcast, like someone has that in their ears, they're listening, they're absorbing, they probably are listening because it's their favorite podcast host, they trust that host and the guests they come on. So you are kind of coming into that intimate space where you have the ability now to impact this audience that's already effectively a warm audience hungry for this information.
Oh God, I love everything you said. I think that's great. And I think also thinking about like, okay, that podcast episode is going to live on, people can discover it. And then also usually the host is going to be emailing that episode to their list. So you're getting in front of their entire email list. They're going to be sharing it on social media. You can share it then on different platforms. So that's content that you can be sharing out, and you can start slow and try a few and see how you feel. And I think anything in life takes practice. I hate practicing. I always wanted to just be good. I just want the soccer game. I don't want the soccer practice, but you got to have both. And so if you're kind of feeling like, oh, podcasting, I've done that before, see if you have someone that you know, and you can reach out to them, or you listen to some podcasts. I'm just copying whatever I've heard, and
Yeah.
acting kind of as if until it starts feeling natural. But I think
Totally.
podcasting, I think that's great. I personally love it. I love having the conversation and talking versus having to like succinctly put something into a 1 minute reel. That's not for me.
100%. And I think that this is something I should have even said early on, is like finding the platform that works best for you. Like, it does take me a little bit longer to put together, or in the past, I would say, I try not to put too much pressure on myself now, but in the past, it would take me a lot longer to do a social media post because I'd be perfecting the graphic and, how does this look and should the caption say? Where personally, I can get on a podcast and talk because that's my method that's easiest for me, and get that done, in a half an hour. And that is going to have, potentially even bigger impact than that one social media post I was putting, so much effort into that was seen by 50 people. So I think it's just finding like the best place to put your energy. And I also do have a YouTube channel. I'd say it's not one that I've in the past focused on as much. It's a goal for the future. But the reason I don't post as much is because getting ready for video is like a stumbling block for me. So it's something I have to work myself up to, where again, just doing audio is like a low hanging fruit for me. So it's easier. So what's going to be easier for you and play into your strengths?
I love that so much. I also made the conscious decision that my podcasts were not going to use video because I knew that if I had to be looking at the camera,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, no, I'll never do it if I put that in front of myself. So yeah, permission to both say what feels good to you, what is going to be like reducing. And that, it comes with time a little bit. It took me a while to finally say, I do not like making reels. I don't feel I'm good at making them. I don't
Yeah.
feel I'm good doing that talking head, talking to the camera. I tried, I think it's also good to like try before you give up,
Mm-hmm.
practice and all that. But I was like, this just isn't coming naturally to me. I put it off. I dread having that on my calendar, my to-do list, whereas a podcast is a lot more fun. So yeah, finding
Yeah.
those. And I think the other thing that you're saying here too is all about, if you don't have a large audience, borrow the audience.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And as you're getting started, because that's some of the challenge with Instagram, is that you are building an audience from the ground up. It's going to take time. Same with building an email list. That is
Mm-hmm.
going to take time. But the more that you can be borrowing others' audiences, which is totally fine. People have
Mm-hmm.
audiences and they want their audience to feel like they are getting the most value from this person. So
Yeah.
when you are doing a freebie swap, and I've talked about
Mm-hmm.
different list building in some prior episodes, like you're doing a freebie swap or you're doing a bundle or anything like that, it's a mutual exchange of value. I don't think like, it's not like you're stealing the audience. You are
No.
borrowing, sharing, adding value. It's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's other ways to do that. Maybe you don't have anyone in your circle that has a podcast. Maybe they have an audience and you could do like a social media live, or maybe you could do a guest expert training inside of their, program or membership or whatever it is. Or another way, this isn't essentially like borrowing an audience, but running a workshop, right? Like maybe this is an in-person workshop or an online workshop, and saying, hey, tickets are free or they're $10, low cost for someone to just come in. And this is another way to get, a number of people in the audience that are interested in this topic, and more engaged people, right? That have said, yes, this is something I really want to learn more about. So really just thinking through ways like, how can I get myself in front of an engaged audience? Again, guest podcasting, workshops, guest expert trainings. Another one I wanted to bring up too, if we could kind of pivot to another idea, is referrals and collaborations. And so we kind of talked through collaborations, but the referral piece is, what other health practitioners do you have in your circle that you could refer clients to that might be a better fit for them and their services, and vice versa. They're going to refer to you. So maybe right now you have a smaller audience, but your colleague has a bigger audience audience and they're willing to send some clients your way, right? Because you're the better fit for that client and what they need. So referrals can really, really grow a practice. In fact, when I was practicing as a nutritionist back in, let's say, like 2015 or so, around there, I teamed up with a local nutritionist in the area I was living who was really busy in her own practice, and she referred a ton of clients to me. And that is really what helped me take off in my business. She was really like this mentor and coach that helped me, really formulate my business and get some footing under me. And it was just through making a local connection, asking if she needed support, taking on some of her clients, showcasing that I had the ability to do so. And then the snowball started rolling from there. So that, again, referrals you could have an entire nutrition business or health practice just based on referrals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think one of the things that maybe sometimes we do, and I was guilty of this too when I was starting my business, is like social media is a thing where you don't have to be putting yourself out there so much. I mean, like you're putting the post, but then you're kind of behind the screen and all of that versus having to start doing some outreach to doctor's offices or, if it's a friend or a colleague, that's great. But you might want to be expanding to gyms in the area or virtually reaching out and networking, or even going back into your network and seeing what they're up to. I started my business with a coach, and she gave me for 30 days. I had to make calls and reach out to my network, and I did not want to do it.
Yeah.
Picking up the phone and all of that and emailing people, it was nerve-wracking. But the more personal connection things, especially when you're starting out, it feels harder, I think, because it's just a little bit more like courage needing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that the payoffs on it can be a lot more immediate and potentially, business changing, life changing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a good like mindset shift here too is, sometimes we can get scared I've been there too, outreach and like, oh, well, why would they want to help me? I'm a small business right now. Or, what are they really going to get from me? But if we kind of can change it, and even like if you're pitching or if you're connecting with someone, like lead with what you can do for them and do that genuinely. Like, how can you support them? Because that's only going to return back to you. So, if that mindset reframe can help, I'm scared to reach out because like, who am I at this point in my business? Just think of how can I lead with service, and then how will this maybe give me a return? But, again, we don't necessarily, we want to remember, we want to take on opportunities that are going to grow our business. So we don't want to say yes to everything. We want to say yes to aligned things, but we might have to say yes to more things early on just to get our foot in some of those doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's learning every time you're doing that. Even if you do a talk and only 5 people show up, if you were able to talk to those people and get a deeper understanding of what made them want to come to the talk, what are the things that they're challenged with, that's just knowledge. I think the other thing is, we're not really talking necessarily about this talk today, but like that interaction with clients early on is so valuable as you're trying to hone in your messaging and your positioning and what are the topics that, whether you're blogging or social media posting or whatever it is, how can I be better at really understanding the needs of my customers? And so I think just recognizing and being appreciative of even those small interactions with a few people, if you take learnings from that and kind of apply it to whatever you're doing next, it can still be really valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's definitely value in doing, even a workshop with 3 people. I've definitely been there. That's definitely happened to me. And then the next workshop, maybe there's 25 people, right? But and I think we so badly want the big audience right away, but we need to, sometimes we don't know how to handle the big audience till we've had the smaller audiences, right? Until we've tested things out, until we've like made a couple mistakes so that we are ready to be in front of that bigger audience. So I think that's also a gift too. When you're, let's even say on social media or running a workshop with only 3 people, you can, just like you said, test things out and really connect with those people so that when you do get bigger, you know how to handle it and you know how to have effective conversations.
Yeah. And we're just looking for a few people. I think also when you're doing these kinds of things, thinking about, you're not going to know the conversion rates, but the conversion rate off of a single social media post is a lot lower than someone came to your talk and they listened to you for a full hour and heard you talk about your services. that is going to be so much more valuable of a connection point with someone than, than Instagram. So even if you're only getting smaller numbers in some of these more kind of heavy lift types of things, they're generally going to be higher quality leads. They're going to be more interested, more engaged, and ready. So just kind of keep that in mind too. And I mean, it goes back to the topic of like, you don't need a large audience to make this work.
Exactly. We can start small and then grow over time, but we do need to start somewhere. And then again, I guess to wrap up, like, if we're going to put the time and energy in, because I know how much time it takes to grow a business. I know how much like blood, sweat, and tears we're all putting in because we so badly want this to work out. But if you're going to put in that time, make sure it's time well spent in ways that are going to grow your business, that aren't burning you out or making you feel bad or like you're not making any progress. Like, again, if social media feels like a block, there are a million and one other ways to grow your business. So just remember that, like, it's not, if it's not working there, it's not working anywhere. It absolutely can. You just have to kind of like open yourself up to different possibilities.
Yep. And also, if it's not working, it could be, don't think that it's you and that your business is doomed to fail. It could be that you're just not approaching it strategically, or a million and one other factors, or maybe you're not niched in enough with your messages and all of that. But then also looking and seeing, okay, what are maybe some other strategies that I can either be layering in or switching to a little bit, or maybe, okay, instead of trying to post 3 days a week, I'll just do one post a week, but now I'm going to really be looking at what are the doctor's offices or colleagues that I can be reaching out to. And maybe I spend a little bit more time each week doing that, or I start looking for some podcasts to pitch myself to. And because we only have so many hours in the day, and 4 hours on a reel.
Yeah. That's your whole day. So
yeah, for sure. Well, this has been extremely insightful. I hope that listeners has both gotten the two sides of the coin, right? If you want social media to be an avenue to grow your business, here's some ideas about it. But if you are feeling like it's not the right spot, here are some options to look at some other things as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, do you have, I'm sure you do, what resources do you have to help people who are just getting started with all of these things?
Yeah. So if you're just getting started in your nutrition business, I do have a workshop called 6 Steps to Start Your Nutrition Business. It's under an hour, easy to watch, completely free. And I'll make sure Whitney has the links for that. I also have, again, if you're just getting started, a course called Launch Your Nutrition Biz. It helps you to start your business and sign those first paying clients. And then do you mind if I give them, if they're like kind of almost next step, and some ideas as well? Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So if you're more next steps, you're thinking through, just kind of like what we've talked about today, marketing, maybe you've tried a couple things out, but you have no real strategy and you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. I do have a membership called Nutrition Business Club. It's a monthly membership where you get access to a marketing plan where you actually learn like what to do, every day of the month. So you're not just, again, throwing that spaghetti at the wall. So I will provide the link for that. And I also have a link for a 1 week free marketing plan. So you can kind of see behind the scenes of what that marketing plan looks like as well.
I love that. Well, great. Yeah, we've given people many options. I've had a marketing coach for years now. I knew that marketing was not a strong suit of mine, even though it's something that I offer and sell to people. And it's taught me a lot working with her and applying it to my business and seeing what works and what doesn't. But it was something that was definitely just like, you're too close to it sometimes in your own business to step back and be like, okay, what is the strategy that I need to have? What content do I need to be putting out there? So I highly recommend, if you're feeling like I'm just not getting this marketing thing, it's not you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need help.
Totally. And the landscape's changing, right? Like things are changing all of the time, which means that means more things are coming out that can maybe suit us a little bit better, but we do kind of have to have our finger on the pulse to see what's working, what's not working. And sometimes getting support with those things is helpful because it can be a little bit when we're basically doing two jobs, or a couple jobs, business owner, marketing coach or marketing marketer, and a nutritionist or a health coach. So, that's a lot of hats to wear. And sometimes just getting some support is the next best step for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure being in a membership, you can get the support and you can also hear what other people, what's working for them and what's not
Yes.
working for them. Because I think it can be it's tough when you look out there, all you see are the things that people are doing and you don't actually know if those things are working or if it took a bunch of time or what
Mm-hmm.
other things they're doing. So I think it's also just really important for us to remember that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes and there's a lot of things that don't work.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
hear about those stories.
True.
We only
Yeah.
see what's working. And,
Absolutely.
so I think that's great. Well, any final words to wrap up here?
Yeah, I think just giving yourself a little bit of grace, remembering that this is a process. Like you might look, just like you mentioned, we might be looking at someone that's on step 100 of their business and we're on step 1. So, really trying not to compare yourself, as hard as that can be, to other people in the industry, and really only comparing yourself to yourself. Like, how much growth have you had in the last week, in the last month, in the last year? And looking at those metrics when you're able to, like, what's working within the business, and then focusing a bit of attention there and really just celebrating those wins, because a lot of us don't have a boss or somebody telling us congratulations, good job. So we have to do that for ourselves, and we really have to see how far we're coming, even if that's you were scared to be on a podcast 6 months ago and you did your first podcast. Like, that is amazing. That is huge personal growth. So really just giving yourself grace and seeing those wins as they come along.
I love that. That is great advice for me to take as well. Yeah,
Same.
we usually kind of hit that milestone and then we're like, what's the next thing? You and I were talking about like, there's always
Mhm.
something to fix in business. And so it's like, but you need to give yourself that grace and
Mhm.
encouragement. So I love
Mhm.
that.
Enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Stephanie, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope everyone checks out Stephanie. We've got all those links in the show notes. And there you go. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Remember that followers do not equal sales. It's really about building your audience and how are you bringing people into your world and doing it in different ways. You can be borrowing audiences. You can be using social media, but using it strategically. And then also making sure that you're doing a variety of things and things that you really enjoy and doing the things that feel good to you. So I know I was inspired by today's episode. Make sure that you grab Stephanie's freebie. And if you want to work with Stephanie and learn more from her and you really liked how she approached marketing and growing your business, then be sure to check out her programs that we also have in the show notes. And remember, stay tuned for more episodes where we will continue exploring topics that help you grow your business and yourself. As always, I'm your host, Whitney. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really makes sure that we reach more listeners like you and spread the value and hopefully the good feelings and inspiration that I'm trying to get here on the podcast. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, keep growing.